Welcome back to the Kings Park Tournament Expert Division Weekend Round, hole number 5. Here we're going to be setting up for a sniper bounce up shot using a P3 side spin 3 plus wind 4 ball. Um, Definitely for this one, playing the wind 4, you may be able to do something with a Kingmaker. However, I have not practiced even once with the Kingmaker because it's a headwind and it's already a tough enough shot that I didn't put any time into a Kingmaker, right? So, Wind 4, you can most likely also play this with a Wind 5. However, all my testing is with a Wind 4. Just keep that in mind. We're going to start with a QB 9 plus, and then we're going to switch to the APOC 5 plus. You can also play this with APOC 4. But if you're going to play it with APOC 4, you will have to have at least a P4 ball. So at P3 max extension, we're going to have the right side of the white ring touching the rough on the right. Release it, then switch to your APOC. Then add your spins, 5.8 top spin, 3 right spin. We're adjusting this drive at P3 plus 5% elevation, max numbers. We're playing this with full overpower and right curl so that our center line is touching the tip of the shot circle, the broken part of the shot circle on the top here. That's my reference, right? That's what I'm looking at. If that doesn't really work for you, you can always look at your center line on top here. You're just out of the black, with a slight sliver of the white showing between your center line and the black ring on the top, if that's something you like to look at. But this is the nice, easy reference for us. So that's what we're looking for. Full overpower. It's somewhat controlled. Depends on the wind angle you get. Sometimes you'll get a headwind angle and you'll pull almost all the way to max club. But usually it's more crosswind, and there's at least a couple of plus yards worth of pushing to slow down your needle speed a little bit. That being said, you can play this with higher power balls to slow down the needle speed. Um, it most likely will slightly change the checks that I have for the approach. So you may need to tweak the checks that I have for the shot if you're using a power 4 or a power 5 ball. I would definitely, if you have it, recommend playing with 4 side spin. I haven't needed it, but you could run into a situation where you need a little bit extra side spin on the approach in order to set up in the same position. But I'll show you what I do. In fact, I think I have to do it here just a touch. So this one is a little bit different as far as how we're going to set this up and where we're going to set it up. But we're doing a bullseye on the tree trunk check, like so. Or we're doing a top of the white ring touching the tree trunk, here, right? So it'll either be bullseye touching, centered on the tree, or it'll be the top of the white ring just touching the front of the tree trunk. Those are the 2 checks that I have for this shot because the different wind angles and the different wind strengths, you can get a couple of different rollouts on this drive. With that being said, even with the shorter rollouts, which I haven't gotten much, but I have gotten them a couple of times, even with those, I was still able to reach the check or be really close to it, and I was still able to play the shot. So bonus there, even with a 300, I think the lowest shortest drive I had, I think, was 366. The longest I had was 377. And I was able to play both of them just fine. Get rid of this. We'll save this. Here's what's going to be a little bit different on this setup. What I'm going to do so that I'm always setting up in the same position. This is important because we're setting up to play a sticky spot, okay? So there's no good references as far as north, south, and ring references and any of that along this line. So what I've come up with is a way to get us to set up in the same position every time, and then we'll just add spin as we need to get the ball guide to the hole. So what I'm looking at here is the right side of this sign, this top corner right here. You see my center line is just touching or just slightly off of that top right corner of the sign. And then in the background, way here in the back, we're looking at this tree. So what I'm aiming for is just left of this tree. You can see, I don't know if that's a window maybe or whatever, but there's a brown like column that runs on that building right there. So just left of the tree in that kind of brown column with your center line, that's what I'm looking for. So I'm lining those two things up, the sign and the left side of the tree. And then when I got that lined up, I'm going to slide, have my bullseye centered on my center line, and then slide it down until my red ring is just touching or just close to touching the rough down here on the bottom. So that allows me to set up in the same position every time so that we get the same kind of bounces and the same kind of rollouts every time, and we're not getting weird stuff happening, right? This is for consistency. This is going to give you a better shot at the drop doing it this way. So I know it's different than what you're probably used to doing, but when we don't have good references, we got to think outside the box, and this is outside the box. So once we got the red ring there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn and zoom in. And I'm going to set the spins that I need. So you see here, I've got the 3. And the first, I get my 3 left spin and my max top spin, or the top spin needed so that that ball guide is just at the back of the cup. But I can't get quite enough side spin from that drive. So I'm ending up in the right half of the cup. I don't want to be there. I want to be center cup. So once I realize that I have no more side spin to get it there, then just get your top spin correct. Then come back to your bullseye, shift it over. It's only a click, right? Until you get that ball guide centered on the hole like such, right? And that should be just fine. But make sure you're centered on the cup. Make sure you're just into the cup, like into the center of the cup. You don't want to be through the hole. You don't want to be short of the hole. You want to be just kind of going into the center of the cup with the tip of the ball guide. From there are wind angles here. First thing is first, you need to pull this with a slight 1201 favor. So it's a little bit more than a flicker. Make sure that you got at least some 1201 here. If you don't have enough 1201, you're most likely going to miss this to the left. All right. And so my references for wind angles, there's actually 3 banners here. There's one behind this picture. Can't really see it. But what I can tell you is I've been mostly around or in between these 2. I think I've seen wind angles from there all the way to probably about right here. And so, I mean, I'm just kind of splitting those in half for my wind angles. leaving me with headwind over here, neutral here, and then crosswind to the left. All right. Headwind, I haven't needed any change, right? Um, dropped it a few times in the headwind. I think lowest was 6.1, highest was 7.6 without any changes. The neutral angle, you start to get a little bit more crosswind push, but you're also over adjusting a bit more. And so if your wind is 6.0 to 6.5 minus 0.2, I'm sorry, minus 0.3. If your wind is 6.6 to 7.1, then you'll minus 0.2. And then if you're 7.2 to 7.7, I think you're going to be good. I didn't really get this wind angle much. I don't believe you're going to need to minus 0.1, but it is possible. But for now, I've got it set as no change, and I don't think you're going to need it, okay? If you catch the crosswind angle, this is the one that I've seen more of. It's usually either been crosswind or headwind for me. In the crosswind angle, you're definitely going to need to take some off of your adjustment. If you have 6.0 to 6.5, you're going to minus 0.4 from the adjustment. If you have 6.6 to 7.1, you minus 0.3. And then if you have 7.2 to 7.7, then you will minus 0.2 from your adjustment. Beyond that, make sure you're always pulling that with that 1201 favor. The adjustment is P3 plus 5% at slider. The checks. So the bullseye on the tree check. Oh, by the way, there's no overpower, no curl. The bullseye on the tree check is as follows. Plus 12 is 41. 11 is 38. 10 is 35. 9 is 32. 8 is 29. 7 is 26. 6 is 25. Plus 5 is 21. 4 is 18. 3 is 16. 2 is 13. 1 is 11. And the 0 is 8% slider. If you're doing a top of the white ring tree check, that means that you've got a shorter drive. And that is going to play as follows. Plus 12 is 57. 11 is 54. 10 is 51. 9 is 49. 8 is 46. 7 is 43. 6 is 41. 5 is 38. 4 is 35. 3 is 32. Plus 2 is 29. Plus 1 is 27. And 0 is 24. All right. With those two checks, I've always been able to get my slider value. Haven't had any real issue. One time, I was one ring short of the tree with my top of the white ring check, in which case I just played it at 60% slider. So I added 3% to the plus 12, and it was good to go. One other thing to note, even though you might consider me to be rambling, this one is a kind of technical shot. Not difficult, but it's time consuming to get everything set up properly. You know, do the check that you need, set your slider value, line up with the sign in the tree so that you're setting up in the proper position. Then you got to add the spin so that your ball guide is looking correct. Then you have to line up your wind angle and pull it with that 1201 that you need. Then you got to, obviously you have to hit perfect, right? And so I play slow, and it took me a few times getting into this to where I could play it and not time out, but it's still tight for me. So I do recommend that you practice this shot at the very least once or twice and get comfortable with the positioning, the setup, what you need to do, and so on, just so that you're not timing out. Now, you can just bang one up there for the easy eagle if that's what you want. The drive is good for that. Ignore everything I just said about the approach. Bring yourself a Guardian, throw you some backspin on it, pop it up on the green, and be on your merry way. If you want to actually drop the Albatross, this shot is going to be pretty good. There's a nice sticky spot there and a great opportunity for Albatross. So good luck, everyone. I hope you get the drop. It's P3 plus 5 on the drive and the approach. The drive, you want to pull straight. If anything, favor a slight 59 flicker. On the approach, you want to make sure that you're pulling with a little bit of 1201. Good luck.